Alright boys and girls, it's almost Halloween. Well, that is, if you're watching this video around the time I released it. Otherwise, I guess it's not really close to Halloween for you. Well, if it's sometime in October. Anyway, I was scrolling through my itch.io page when I found this. Yeah, it's a game jam, and I really like game jams, so I decided to enter. But I'm sure some of you don't know what a game jam is, so let me get some help from my friend, Google. Yeah, here you go. You may have noticed that Wikipedia says game jams normally last between 24 and 72 hours. The Scream Jam says no to that and gives us 10 days to complete our game. Now I want to make a 3D game for this jam because the last game I made was in 2D, which by the way, you can see in my last video. So I mean, you should probably go check it out. I'll give you a couple seconds to pause the video and go watch it. Alright, if you watched it, thank you. If you didn't, I'm not sure what you're doing right now. Go watch it. Anyway, because I'm making a 3D game for a horror-themed jam, I really only have two options. My first option is to really make any 3D game because my models are so bad they'll make people scream. The second option, because I have almost no creativity, is to make a first-person horror game with a flashlight and a monster. Spoiler, I went with that one. With getting a game idea out of the way, it was time to wait for the jam to start. It's day one and the jam just started. The first 24 hours after a game jam starts is always the most important, so I decided to start off the day by continuing to edit last week's video. But that's okay because the rest of day one was spent also editing last week's video. And after a long day of editing last week's video, I went to bed having done nothing for the jam. Alright, day one got off to a bit of a slow start, but I can make up for lost time by working hard in day two. So I decided to start off the day by finishing up last week's video. Finally, with the video edited and posted to YouTube, it was time to start working on my game. Haha, just kidding, it's bedtime. On day 3, I finally got around to working on my game. I started by setting up a reference image and modeling the map using ProBuilder. I decided the map would be a mansion because, well, mansions are cool. So far, this jam had been going pretty well. I really had no complaints, which is unusual for a game jam. I'm always normally stressed or something goes wrong, Unity messes up, whatever it is, but this jam was actually going really well and I was really happy with it. And everything was awesome, I really liked it.
No, this can't be happening. Nate's having a good game jam. This is completely unacceptable. I know, I'll write a program that messes up his whole project. Ha ha ha. Say goodbye.
Anyway, I took a short break, and when I got back, I was ready to start. Oh wow, what happened? Okay, Unity just yeeted my whole project and I can't get anything back now, which means that I'll have to start all over. But that's okay because I still have the second half of the day to work. Anyway, time to remake the map. After about 2 hours of working, I decided to go get some water, because not gonna lie, water's yummy. When I got back, I was ready to continue working on the map. Oh no, not again. Once again, good old reliable Unity decided to yeet my whole project. I guess Unity just has a thing against mansions. Anyway, I don't have time to figure this out right now because it's time for me to get some shut-eye. Alright, it's day 4, but I guess because I'm starting from scratch today, it'd really be day 1. Because I've lost so much time, I'm gonna refine my idea just a little bit. But there's just one problem. I don't know what to do. Luckily, after some thinking, I came up with a very original idea. The game takes place in a museum and you're a guy with a flashlight. There's a monster that walks around and teleports that tries to eat you. Your goal is to get 10 of a certain item without dying. Yeah, I know it's original. I came up with it by myself with no help whatsoever. Hey wait, what are you doing? Stop, you weren't supposed to show them that. Stop! And with that all out of the way, it was time to start making the map. Again. With the the outline of the map finished, I threw together a quick FPS controller. If you want to see the script, or really any code in this video, just head over to my GitHub page. Now, the player movement was feeling kind of incomplete, so I decided to add crouching. This was actually pretty simple to program. All I had to do was change the player's scale to a small number when he was crouching, and a larger number when he wasn't crouching. Finally, to stick the icing on the cake, I added some head bobbing and breathing to make it more realistic. I know it looks like MS Paint the game right now, but I'm saving the visuals for later. With that, it was time to check out for the night. On day 2, I started off by modeling a flashlight in Blender. It looks bad, but I'm kind of on a time constraint, so I kept it. Now, some of you might be wondering, "Oi, Night, why do you need a flashlight?" Dark equals scary, and because I'm making a horror game, I kind of want it to be scary. And it's a pretty well-known fact that if it's dark, you can't see. So that's where good old flashlight comes in. If you turn it on, you can see. So I brought it into Unity, added some post-processing, made the scene dark, and copied some code from Stack Overflow. Wrote some code in Visual Studio. The last thing I did to spice things up was to add some free textures to the map, along with some more post-processing. Still not great, but it's passable for sure. Now, a horror game is kind of useless without horror, and now that I've said that, I know I'm gonna get a bunch of comments saying, "Oi, Night, didn't you tell us that dark equals scary?" Well, that's true. What really makes the dark scary is the things in the dark. And so, I opened up Blender and started to model a monster. Alright, now that the basic shape is done, it's time to start texturing. I opened up Krita and drew a really low quality face. The eyes were scary enough to me, but the mouth just looked happy. So on his teeth, I decided to add some blood.
Whoa there, hold on. Kids watch these videos, man. Keep it PG.
As I was saying, I drew some Kool-Aid stains on the monster's teeth because Kool-Aid has a lot of sugar, and sugar's bad for you, which makes it scary. After that, I slapped it into Blender and gave the monster a face. And to finish up the monster, I applied some materials to his torso and legs to make him look like he had clothes on. Yeah, I know, the monster is completely original. I took absolutely no inspiration from anything. Hey wait, stop. You weren't supposed to show them that. Stop! And with that, I ended the day by going to sleep. On day 3, I continued working on the monster. I started by giving the monster bones. I then took those bones and assigned weights to them to deform the mesh, which totally didn't take me 5 hours to complete. After tons of trial and error, and of course, Blender tutorials, I finally got it working properly. Now, some of you may be wondering, "Oi, Night, what's the point of giving the character bones?" Well, I'm glad you asked because that's the next step in this whole process. Animation. Now, it's been a while since I've done stuff in 3D, so to shake the dust off, I made possibly the most essential animation to this character. I then created a walking animation and a kill animation where the monster gobbles up the player. With that done, I slapped it all into Unity, and everything seems to work fine for now. Hey, would you look at the time? Time for you to subscribe. It's very easy actually. All you do is scroll down a little bit, and then you click subscribe. Yeah, pretty cool. Anyway, it happens to be past my bedtime, so I'm going to check out. It's day 4, and I started the day by polishing some things up. Everything's looking pretty scary right now, which is really good. The next thing I did was try and program some AI for the monster. The logic behind it is pretty simple. The monster walks somewhat randomly around the map. If he ends up seeing you, he'll go ahead and chase you. And every 30 seconds or so, he'll teleport. The position he teleports on will be dependent on how much time has passed. To accomplish all this, I'm using the Unity Nav Mesh system. Now, to some of you this may seem pretty hard, but because I'm a pro game dev, I got it right on the very first try with no help. After a few more hours of working, I finally got it to function properly. Next, I decided to make it so the monster could kill the player, because if you can't die then it's a lot less scary. And like I mentioned before, I'm a pro game dev, so this was pretty simple and straightforward. After a couple hours, I finally thought I had it fixed. I was wrong. After a few more hours, I finally got it to work properly. I also added a red light that appears when you're about to die just to add to the overall scariness. And with that, it was time to sleep. When I woke up, it was day 5. I started off the day by fixing some game-breaking bugs that I had found while playtesting. With those fixed, I could finally move on to fixing some more game-breaking bugs that I found while fixing the previous game-breaking bugs. And after that, I found some more game-breaking bugs. After that whole mess, I decided to start making the security cameras. The first step of this process was to go into Blender and create a monitor. This was actually pretty simple and straightforward. I started off by creating a box. Yeah, that's pretty much it. The next part was to model a keyboard. To do that, I made a rectangle and slapped a texture on it. Yeah, that's it. The last thing I did was create a computer that would sit alongside the monitor. To do this, I created a bigger rectangle. If you couldn't already tell, I'm pretty bad at modeling. The next step in creating security cameras was to model a security camera. I started by creating a new file in 3ds Max. Just kidding, why would I use that disgusting software? I created a new file in Blender and made a cylinder connected to a rectangle. And to make it look more like a camera, I added a cylinder on the other end of the rectangle. The final thing I did was rig the camera, which means to give it bones. I did this so that the wire, which is the cylinder at the top, would behave more like a wire. Yeah, I know, probably the smartest thing I've ever done. I closed out my modeling session by making a table. The table's actually pretty simple. It's literally 5 rectangles with a texture slapped on it. After bringing everything into Unity, I did some programming and now we have cameras. Well, some of the time. After bug fixing for longer than I'd like to admit, I finally kind of got it working. But it was getting late, so I decided to go to sleep. It's day 6 and the gym ends at 6 p.m. tomorrow. This may seem like a lot of time, but if you incorporate 7 hours of school, it's really not that much. I started the day by creating some gold to use in my game. I got pretty lazy with this and just used a rock that I had created before and applied a gold material to it. And after writing some really messy code, which you can check out on my GitHub page, the player can now pick up gold. Now, this map is like a maze, and honestly everything looks the same, and I didn't want players getting too lost, so I added markers to the game. Now, I'm sure pretty much all of you are wondering, "Oi, Knight, what's a marker? Is it one of those Crayola things?" The way the marker works is pretty simple. You right click on a surface that you'd like to place the marker on, and then a big red X is painted on it, so when you pass by it later, you know you've already been there. I spent the rest of the day making menus, and when that was done, I decided to rest for the night. It's day 7, and I only have 3 hours to complete this game. I'm screwed. After school was done, I spent about 5 minutes making some sounds for my game. And when that was done, I scrambled to fix some game-breaking bugs that I had conveniently found. And after an incredibly stressful 2.5 hours, I was ready to submit my game. But first, I had to build for Mac, Windows, Linux, and web. Building for Windows, Mac, and Linux went really smoothly. But when I started building for WebGL, it took a really long time and ended up really scuffed. So I decided not to include a web version. But you can go over and play the game on my itch.io page and check out the source code on my GitHub. As always, links in the description. Hit like if you liked, also hit like if you disliked, and remember to subscribe. Because, at 1,000 subs, I'll do a dog reveal. Alright boys and girls, have a great week, and thanks for watching.